Hello and welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
How you doing, Dad?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to seeing you today.
Yes, we're coming down a little bit later. We're going to record this podcast, do a few bits here, and then pack up, and we'll be coming down for the night.
That'd be great. Look forward to seeing you. Nice catch up.
Yes, same. I would record this podcast in person with you, but then people won't get the visuals
No,
unless they.
no, you're quite
I,
right. I think that's a good idea. They'd probably miss it if they didn't. It just
yeah,
get
exactly.
their voices.
How have you been this week?
Well, I've had a funny week this week, as I'm going to explain to you in a minute. And first of all, it's something like this when the incident that happened, it can put you off if you're not prepared for something like this. But in this case, it's worked out quite well for us because when you get an incident like this, you can explain away what other people are going to find. It's going to happen to them at some time or other. But that was bit disconcerting, I suppose. But I picked myself up, dusted it down, and started again.
Excellent, good to hear. Well, we'll explain that then, shall we? So we're gonna talk about two parallel topics here, and one can lead into the other. The first is that we had a question, I think, on the last week's podcast from Joy on YouTube. And Joy says, I'm really enjoying your podcast on YouTube very much, and I love pastel pencils. Can you recommend a surface to use beneath my artwork that is hard, smooth, and portable? I've been using cardboard beneath my pastel mat, but there must be something more substantial that I can use masking tape on to tape it down and can take on the go. Thank you in advance. So I thought what would be good for Joy and for everyone else to see, and this is where it ties into the predicament that you've also had this week, is we're going to show the piece of hardboard that you use with the picture that you've just recently been working on. And if people remember last week, that was going to be a portrait. So you go through this, Dad. You take over and explain what happened, and we'll also be showing the hardboard that it's taped to at the same time.
Yes, I will. And I'll also explain why I'm standing or sitting slightly skew-whiff. And people are thinking, why can't he centre it? Well, the reason is this space here is for something else I'm going to show you. I had to work it out how I was going to actually show it to you, but this is the best way. So let's bring it in and see what you think. There you go.
So that to me, you said that you're going to think this is amazing, and I really do, and I think everyone else is going to be like, well, that's incredible, that's amazing. Where's the predicament?
It is. Well, I knew you were going to say that. Well, we talk about the picture first and then the board, yes? That way round, because I'm sure people want to know what happened. What happened was I was getting on quite well with it, although this is UArt paper. It's very rough, almost like fine sandpaper. Very different to pastelbat. People are familiar with pastelbat, I'm sure, and I've done loads and loads of pictures on it. But I thought, well, do you remember the Sphinx cat that I did a couple of weeks ago? I was so pleased with that. That worked out really well. I thought, this is going to work on portraits. And I started off, and it did. I was following my usual intuitive colours. And you get to a point where I was thinking, this might not take much more colour. Now, even though it's rough surface and obviously you can take more colour, I did wonder. And I found it, when I'm working, I'm also mindful that this is something that people want to do themselves. You know, it's a teaching aid, really. I mean, I could struggle on, and I could have carried on struggling on, but it would have been a struggle. And in the end, I would have probably said to people, you know, although this is lovely and it's lovely for you to see, there's not going to be much benefit to you because I really don't think you're going to be able to do this. In fact, I'm sure you wouldn't be able to do it. So I got to the stage, and the reason is that you see here where we have, see if I can point it out on the screen, this area here, that needs to be deepened. Now you get to a point where you finish the structure, you put all the colours on of the skin, and then you do the eyes and the mouth usually, and then touch up the nose. So you put the darker areas in, and once you do that, that throws up the lightness of the rest of it. So you have to go back over it again and deepen those colours. It's great to do, and I've done it on pastel, I've done it on grey, and it's not a problem. Here, it wouldn't take it. I started putting more on, and as I used my colour shaper and my finger, which I normally do, it was rubbing off. Well, how am I going to keep it on there? And so in the end, I was very frustrated. I thought, I've just got to stop now, because I don't think our members, however good they are going to be able to do it. I would struggle, and I'm sure they would. So we came to a point where I said, okay, enough's enough. Then what do you do? What do you do when you get to a situation like that and you think, oh, I love it. I love the picture and I thought it was great. But I wasn't going to carry on with it. So the decision was made, that's it. Okay, it's going to be shelved. I didn't take it off the board at that moment of time. I thought I'd just hang on to it. Normally I just take it off the board and then move on to something else. And that was my problem. What do I do next? I wanted to do a portrait. I told people I was going to do a portrait. So what I'd done, I started another one. Okay? And the reason I didn't do this one again, because that's a question mark, he said, well, why don't you do it again? It's too soon. I still have the memory of the problem I had. So I know from past experience that it's probably better to shelve this and come back to it, maybe in a couple of pictures' time. I'd be interested to see and hear what people think. If everybody says, oh, I'd love to see you finish that, what I'll be doing next time is doing it on sand-coloured pastel paper. So anyway, have you got any questions that you'd like to ask me about that?
That's really fascinating. First of all, I think it's wonderful that you've shared this problem, and I think that people are going to be very grateful to hear that, even you come across stumbling blocks with your work, even you come across something and that you would think, I wasn't expecting that. And it's an interesting note to add that this has been your experience with UArt, so that people can bear that in mind, because you've done so many successful pictures on UArt. It doesn't mean that it's not a rubbish paper. It just means that for portrait work, and especially the amount of colours and layers that go into the faces, it doesn't seem to perform as well. Would you say that? Do you want to elaborate on that?
I totally agree with you, but it is my kind of style. Now, somebody else could come on with a more what can I say, abstract kind of look, and it would work very well for them, because they wouldn't be putting the colours on that I'm putting on. They would put stronger colours and more vibrant colours on. I don't like that. I like to create pictures that are representative of the subject, and as people know, so it's me really more than it is the UArt paper. It's my particular style, and people will know that when they see the next one. So next week I will show you the one I'm doing. It's not quite as big as this, and you'll be able to see the difference.
I think it's also really interesting to hear the psychological aspect of this that people will be able to relate to. It's not just a case of, oh, well, I'll just start again. It's this didn't go well, like for reasons out of my control, and I want to distract myself from that experience and come back to it later. I think mentally that's really good to share your mindset around doing this, so that people go, oh, you're human too. Exactly. You want to break as well, and maybe come back to it. I, for one, I know I'm not a member in doing the work, but I, for one, would love to see this version done at another time, because a picture of this done, because I think it just looks absolutely stunning. The contrast between the hair and the face and the depth within the neck and the shadows and the three-dimensional, I think it's just brilliant. And I'm sure that people will join me in commenting on this video and saying how much they would love to see you do this picture on pastel mat. So I hope that we do see it again in the future. Let's talk about the hardboard as well that you've got there around the outside.
Well, I've been using hardboard for, I can't remember. It must be most of my life, my art life. I've been using hardboard. The reason I got it initially was that it was a backing board. It's actually a backing board which is used for backing pictures. And I got it from my framer. Not my framer, my framing supply. And they put it, and I thought, that would make a really good backing board. I think I was using, what was I using? I think I'm probably using hard cardboard. I can't remember that, so long ago. But that was okay. But what I wanted and what I need is something that's portable and also quite light. I know that you can get art boards which are quite thick and they're quite heavy. Now, they're heavy for a reason, because they don't move around. But with me, I need to move around. People know that when they see my work. I turn it upside down on camera. So this was ideal, and it's quite thin. I think it's 2mm thick, should I say. And it's got a smooth side. Let's turn it over on the other side. You can see better. This is much smoother. So the tape that you put on sticks nicely. What you don't want is to have a hardboard that's got little ridges in it, because that's going to be it could affect the picture. Not so bad for pastel mat, but on grey would have been a disaster. You'd have little indentations.
Yes.
So pastel mat's quite a thick paper. It probably wouldn't be quite so bad. But the tape sticks really well. And the other thing about tape now, it's given me an opportunity to talk about the tape. This tape is pretty strong. Let's see if I can take it off. See, it strips off quite nicely, but it's still sticky. So I used to use a thinner, cheaper tape, and then I found that it was lifting off, and that was annoying because you've got to keep sticking back. Now with pastel mat, you do need quite a strong tape to make sure that it's solid. You don't get any hiccups. So hardboard, I recommend if you can get it. You have to go to, I don't know where you go for it, unless you're lucky enough to be able to find some framing suppliers that can get it for you.
I imagine somewhere like over here in the UK, like B&Q, hardware stores, DIY stores, I'm sure that you can get it.
Sure you could. I'm sure. I've not looked for it. I don't have to. I've got tons of this stuff already, so I've never had to look around for it. But the tape is the next thing. Get some decent tape. 3Ms is probably the one well known. This is not 3Ms, this is another tape we found on the internet. And I've been using that for 3 or 4 years now. And that's a good tape. I can't remember what it's called now. I could find out if you're interested. But that gives you the rigidity, and that's what you need. So you've got a nice surface, and I've never ever been disappointed with it.
Brilliant.
The other thing is, Steve, you can cut it with a Stanley blade. It takes a bit of doing, but you can cut it.
Excellent. So because you have different sizes, you used to have different hardboard sizes because you don't want a tiny picture on a massive board because that's counterintuitive, right? So you want to be able to cut it to have, as you can see there, enough space around, an inch or so around the side.
I've got half a dozen different sizes. You're quite right, but you need decent edge. And the other thing, of course, is you can cut the paper to fit that as well. That's what my process is. I get my picture, and I think, no, what size? And I check the sizes and make sure it's going to fit on the board. You've got to work it out. It takes a little time, but once you get used to it, you get situations. This was going to be a lovely size, and I will do it the same size if I do it again.
Okay. Well, everyone, let's root for this picture to be done. So comment if you can below, because I know for one, I would love to see it. Have you started, or are you going to start a different portrait for next week?
I've started it already. I was tempted to bring that down, but I thought, no, I won't do that. I'll wait until next week. I think, to be fair, it really needs the eyes in and the lips to make it look like that. It's got to have some kind of appeal, and people think, oh, that's lovely. First of all, I was just going to use the skin, just have the skin, and then I was going to put the eyes in and then the mouth and so on. But I think what I'll do this time is I'll put the skin and the skin, eyes, nose, and mouth in. But it would be, it'd be similar to that, and then we can look at it again. But this is the lady. Remember, I mentioned a straw hat, didn't I? 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
One with a straw hat. I shelved that to do this one, but I'm back with a straw hat now, which is going to be a real. I've not done it before, so it's going to be quite a challenge.
Fantastic.
I like challenges. Anyway, there you go.
Well, we like hearing about your challenges as well, so that's good. Fantastic. All right, well, I hope everyone has found this really interesting. Dad, thank you for sharing, as always, your experiences and the hiccups and things that you've encountered. As always, if anyone has anything they'd like us to discuss, questions like Joy asked, please always get in touch with us and we'll happily talk about it. For now, we will leave it and hopefully see a progress picture next week on your next portrait, Dad, but we'll leave it there for now. So thank you, everyone, for watching and for listening. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley. Enjoy
your
your week.
week.